Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we will be discussing some tips for being an online student. My name is Dr. Miles Castley-Rice and I am an Associate Lecturer in Sport and Exercise Psychology here at AUCC University College. Now I wanted to put this video together just to give you some tips and tricks as you enter the online environment. Now some of you may be coming from a background where you've experienced online study before. Others of you may not. So this is just a handy guide to provide some information on how you can best learn within the online setting. So what we will be covering today in this video, we'll start off by looking at some common challenges that are faced, that students might face in the online environment. And with that, we'll kind of discuss ideas that you can use to overcome some of those challenges. I'll be providing you with some tips to be successful within the online environment. I'll also provide some suggestions on how you can stay organized in the online setting. Within that, we'll look at folder organization and that kind of stuff. And then finally, we'll talk about some contacts and useful information in terms of key people you can reach out to if you're having any issues as you progress throughout your studies. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the common challenges that prop up from time to time with online students. So the first one being time. Now, whether you're on the full-time track or the part-time track, we do understand that you'll be having other commitments throughout the week as well. Maybe that's working, maybe that's family, etc. Just make sure that you understand if you're on the full-time track, that's just because you're in an online environment doesn't mean that that's less than if you're in a traditional setting. It's just the content is just delivered in a different manner. So make sure that you're committing adequate amount of time each week towards your studies. Similarly, if you're in a part-time track, you'll also need to understand what kind of commitment each class will have. So just ensure that you are setting aside enough time each week for you to be successful in the online environment. Now, on the topic of content, you will notice that throughout the weeks, there is a variety of different content in terms of how that's delivered to you. Sometimes that's videos, sometimes that's readings, sometimes that's podcasts. And the amount of time it takes to get through that content can vary slightly based on the week of the study. So just make sure that you understand as you are going through that content, that you check at the start of each week and just make sure that you can set aside enough time to get through that content. Now, the nice thing about being in the online environment is that you can be very flexible in when you engage with that content. So if you have more time on certain days of the week, then you can obviously spend more time on those days going through the content. But ultimately, make sure that you understand, again, that time commitment and when you're actually going to digest that content, because it can be very easy to fall behind if you're not engaging on a week-to-week basis. Next, then you may notice that in the online setting, sometimes it feels like there might be less interaction between yourself, peers, and sometimes staff. And a big part of that falls on how much you're engaging within that online setting. Now, there are opportunities to engage with classmates, with faculty throughout your time at the university. So make sure that you're taking those opportunities as they come up. For instance, there'll be opportunities within the unit shells to have discussions with classmates on discussion boards. There's opportunities to set up meetings and attend meetings with members of faculty, but also outside of your classes as well. There's the opportunity to interact with your peers and faculty, things like the monthly meeting. So make sure you're keeping an eye out and taking up those opportunities for interaction with others in the cohort. Which leads nicely into the next point, lack of support. So when you're in the online setting, sometimes it can be easy to just kind of switch off from others around you, especially members of faculty, where you're not seeing them consistently in person on a daily basis. So make sure that if you are starting to struggle, that you are reaching out, letting members of staff know and seeing how they can support you. Also, there's a great student services team at the university who can support you through challenges that you might be facing in terms of support as well. And then finally, make sure that you have members of family around you that you can lean on as well. It is postgraduate education, so it can get challenging at times. So make sure that you have a support group around your setting as well in person. So again, combining that online support through faculty and also in-person support through members around you can really help you as you go through your studies. Finally, extenuating circumstances. We do understand that life happens sometimes and unexpected things do come up. Now we do have a process for you to go through extensions on your assignments, and that will be through the unit or the course leader, which will be through Steph. So make sure that if something unexpected does come up, you're communicating with members of staff, unit leaders, course leader to ensure that you are providing enough time for extensions to occur. Now, of course, these are for extenuating circumstances, so please make sure you're utilizing this only when there are those unexpected things that come up within your studies. Okay, so now that we've gone over the challenges, let's look at some tips for being successful within the online environment. So first of all, I would definitely suggest planning ahead. What you'll notice in the course shells is that you can, you'll get access to the unit handbook at the start of each unit, which will detail information on assessments, etc., due dates, and also you will be able to see each week as they become available. So as each week becomes available, you can see what content, again, you need to digest for that week. So make sure that you stay organized in some way, maybe have a calendar that you can put in all your assessment due dates so that you can see what you're working towards, and maybe start to plan out when and how you'll complete each of the assessments that are due for that term. Also, make sure that you ask questions. Again, being in an online environment is slightly different in terms of the way you might interact on a daily basis with those around you. There's opportunities within each unit shell and also in the course shell for you to ask questions if you're unsure of anything. And of course, others might be having similar questions, and if no one asks, then no one's going to get the answer. So have some confidence in asking questions, and a member of faculty within that unit would be happy to go in and answer those questions for you. And of course, the more time that you give to answer questions, particularly around assignments, the quicker you'll get a response and the more time you'll have to then work on that assignment or whatever issue you might be facing within that course shell. Next, along similar lines, make sure you're interacting within that virtual learning environment. So on the Moodle pages, there might be some discussions that are put in from week to week on the course or the unit shells. So make sure that if those are there, that you're engaging with them. It's a good opportunity for you to not only demonstrate your understanding of the content, but you might actually deepen your understanding by reading other people's posts. It's always great to ask questions as well to check for understanding, but then also maybe to, if you're curious in an idea that someone else has had in the class, they might be able to expand on that a little bit further for you to continue that learning as well. So being in the virtual learning environment is a good opportunity for you to showcase those ideas and see how others are also perceiving that content that's being provided. Next, you'll be assigned an academic support tutor early on in the term as you start at ACC University College, and I definitely suggest utilizing those academic support tutors when necessary. They'll be your go-to point at the university for any questions, concerns, or any support that you might need. So setting up meetings with them to go over assignments or to just ask questions in general about the content that you might have is a good place to get those answers and build a relationship with a member of staff at the university. Now, the amount of availability that each academic support tutor might vary based on their current commitments. So if you are interested in setting up meetings with them, make sure you give them plenty of notice so that they can schedule a time in that works within their schedule and within your schedule, but that they definitely can help as you're going through this online environment. And if it's your first time in an online setting, they might have some suggestions or be able to support in that transition moving from more traditional learning into online learning, or if you've been out of education for a little while, coming back into education again. Finally, I would suggest making sure that you engage in the material. There's a lot of expertise on the team, and each member of faculty provides some really interesting and fascinating resources within the unit shells. So the more that you engage with that material, the more you'll get out of your learning. Now, as I'll talk about on the next slide in organization, you might not be able to fully get through everything in 1 week. So it's always good to keep a record of what you find interesting, so that you can go back and look at that at a later date if you need some more information, or if you just want to go through that information again to make sure that you fully understand it. And you'll have different types of materials as you go through. Like I mentioned before, there'll be readings, podcasts, videos. So again, thinking about when you can digest those, that might save you some time. For instance, if it's a podcast and you've got a bit of a commute, that might be a good opportunity to listen to that podcast on that commute. So, oh, missed one. Also make sure that you stay in touch. So like I mentioned previously, sometimes it can be easy to forget that there's a support network around you when you're in the online setting. Excuse me. So make sure that you are reaching out to members of faculty, friends and family throughout your time as an online student, so that you have someone to support you and support you through any challenges that you might be facing during your time. Okay, so oh, finally, I've got one more tip, and that is to look for answers in the course shell. So when you get access to Moodle for the first time, what you'll notice is that there is a course shell specifically for your cohort. And then within that course shell, there's a lot of answers to do with the course as a whole, and also to do with units. So you'll find assessment due dates in there, you'll find discussion forums in there, you'll find APA style guidelines in there. Anything you can think of, there's probably an answer somewhere in the course shell. So be proactive, make sure you're going and checking out that course shell whenever you have questions. So moving on to organization. Now, when you're in the virtual learning environment, what you'll notice is that there'll be a lot of files, a lot of classes. So it's good to have some kind of organization system. So what I'll do is I'll showcase one suggestion here. If this doesn't suit the way that you like to be organized, that's totally fine. But I would suggest having some clear form of organization just to support you through this online learning. So first of all, when it comes to each of your units, I definitely find it beneficial to keep a folder for each individual unit. What you can keep in here are notes for that unit. You can keep drafts for your assessments. You can keep final copies of your assessments in there. Having a copy of everything can be very beneficial, especially if we're looking long term in the field. You might come across something in the future where you think, oh yeah, I remember studying about that in this class. And then you can come back into this folder and all of that information will be there for you. Now, on top of having a folder for each unit, I'd also suggest having a folder that you label article or resources or something along those lines, so that you can then keep or you can download journal articles or whatever that might be off of the Moodle page and put them into a specific folder on that topic. So it could be, for instance, articles on goal setting, elite sports, could be youth sports. Any articles that you find throughout your time on the course, download them, put them into those folders, and then you'll have access to them moving forward. Now, this is very helpful, especially if you're interested in moving into the field as a career in the future, because you will need to take an evidence-based approach. And to be able to do so, you need access to journal articles, books, etc. So this just helps keep all that information organized for you. And then you don't need to go searching too hard for those articles again, especially at the end of your studies where you may not have access to this content again. You can keep it all stored nice and organized in these folders. Now, a different way of doing that is by continuing an annotated bibliography throughout your time at the university. Now, this takes a little bit more setup, but you can keep it all within one document, and that will help you moving forward to just continue to add to this document. So again, you can have specific categories within there. You don't need to add the whole article in there. What you can do is put in the reference and a little brief description about that reference, so that in the future, if you're thinking, oh, I want to know what I can do for an imagery session, for instance, you can go into this annotated bibliography, look at your imagery section, look at what resources you have in there, and see how it applies to the group that you could potentially be working with. Now, the nice thing about an annotated bibliography as well is you can also have podcasts and videos included, and you can include direct links to them. So again, if there's a video that you wanted to watch again in the future, you have a link in an organized place where you know you can find it. And again, it takes a little bit more work throughout your studies, but long term, it will be very beneficial for you moving into the field. So our final slide, we'll be talking about some useful contacts. So keep these in mind as you go through your education here at AUCC University College. There's plenty of people and plenty of support around. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We'll start with IT services. So if you have any issues with any of the technology, if there's something going on with Moodle, you can't access specific units, etc., feel free to reach out to IT services. They'll be able to look into that issue for you. Similarly, if you have any questions or concerns or need any support with anything, we have a great student services team here who can get you in contact with the right people. Maybe that's academic support, maybe it's setting up writing sessions. Feel free to give them an email. They'll be more than happy to help you out throughout your time here at AUCC University College. We also have the registry. So if you need anything in terms of information about your enrollment, grades, etc., feel free to reach out to registry. They'll be happy to help you with those questions. Thinking more course specific, first we'll start with your academic support tutor. Like I mentioned, this will be provided to you early on into your studies. So make sure you have their contact information. You should be meeting with them semi-regularly, at least once a term for check-ins. So make sure you're engaging with them in those spaces. You have your unit leaders. So if you have questions about unit content or assessments for particular units, the unit leader is a good person to reach out to for answers on those. And then finally, we also have the course leader. So if you don't want to approach your academic support tutor or the unit leader, then the course leader is a good place to get further information from as well. If there's anything you need during your time here at AUCC University College, please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to support in any way you feel like you need it. And best of luck as you transition into this environment.